Alaska Airlines just announced that they're going to be debuting a premium travel credit card in 2025. And based on some of the features that I'm seeing on this card so far, it does seem like it's going to be a really interesting product that's added to the credit card game. So, in this video, I want to break down everything that we know so far about the Alaska Airlines premium travel credit card and make my own hypothesis on whether I think that card is going to be worth it. So again, like I said, this credit card is going to come to the market sometime in summer of 2025. We don't have an exact date yet, but there are some things that you can do to be prepared for that launch if you're interested in getting this credit card. And in this Point Sky article, it's going to go through some of those options that you have if you want to put yourself in a good position to be able to get this credit card and get some additional added value as well. So, first of all, at the start of this article, it just goes through some of the details for that credit card and kind of why they're doing that as well. So, as you can see right here, obviously it talks about Alaska making some major announcements about its future with some of the different flights and potential lounges that they're adding as well that complement the launch of this premium travel credit card as well. But if we scroll down, what I'm really interested in showing you guys is what you can actually do now. So obviously, this credit card doesn't even come out until summer of 2025. But there's a couple steps that you can actually take right now if this does seem like a credit card that you're interested in. So as you can see, basically this paragraph right here says that there's a fun opportunity for Alaska Mileage Plan members right now. Basically, you can earn 500 Alaska Mileage Plan points just for putting yourself on a wait list. So if you want this credit card and you put yourself on the wait list for the new premium travel credit card, then you're just going to get an additional 500 miles just for doing so, and potentially another 5,000 bonus miles if you're one of the first people that are actually approved for this new credit card. And it goes through a couple more things right here as well. So to be able to earn at the very minimum the 500 miles, you need to join the waitlist by the end of this year. So by December 31st. And then once credit card applications actually open, you can basically use an exclusive link that's going to be sent to you by Alaska Airlines. And if your application is approved, then you can receive an additional 5,000 bonus miles. Again, in addition to the welcome bonus that's included on the card as well. But in order to understand what that premium Alaska credit card is going to look like, I think it's important to first take a step back and take a look at what Alaska credit cards currently exist, what those credit cards look like, and some of the core components on those cards, because I think it'll help us understand what the context is going into that premium credit card offering. Okay, so what I did here is I pulled up the personal credit card for Alaska Airlines, the card page, so we can take a look at some of the components on the card. Just as a quick note, there's a business version of the Alaska Airlines credit card as well, but they're basically lookalike cards. They're extremely identical. Both of these cards have a $95 annual fee. There's a couple of really small differences, but for the most part, the main components on the card remain the same. So if we dive into what the credit cards look like right now, the biggest calling card with the Alaska Airlines credit card is going to be their famous companion fare, as I'm highlighting down right here. So basically what that is it allows you to fly on any flight. So let's say that you're going from like Seattle to New York City, or from even Seattle to like Belize or Hawaii. So the whole goal of it is to try to find a more expensive flight that you would normally have taken. And then what the companion pass is actually going to do is for your companion's ticket, so that second person's ticket, instead of maybe being like $400 or $500 for a round trip ticket for that person, instead it's always going to be $120. So yes, so it highlights it up here. So it's basically a $99 companion fare plus $23 in taxes and fees. So it's basically about $120 total. And again, essentially what that means is it doesn't matter what the actual cost of the flight is, but the companion pass is always going to be 120. For me personally, I've gotten enough value every year to significantly outpace the annual fee just by using one of my more expensive flights for the year. So this past year, basically, I went with my family to Hawaii and I booked flights for myself and my wife, Lucia, and I used the companion pass for that trip, which ended up getting like $300 to $400 in value because typically those flights over to Hawaii cost like $500 to $600. And I slashed, a pretty significant chunk out of that by using the companion pass for Lucia's ticket. So when we take a look at the personal Alaska Airlines credit card, the companion pass is always going to be the number one thing that's going to get you the most amount of value. I am very lucky to be grandfathered in to having the Alaska card before some changes were made. But basically, I get the companion pass every year without any required spend. Now you do need to spend, you do have an annual spend requirement to get the companion pass. I believe it's typically like $3,000 to $4,000. But if that is valuable to you and you think you're going to get a lot of value from it, then I think it's worth it to probably complete that spend in most years. Outside of that, on the personal credit card, one of the other biggest calling cards on this credit card is going to be a $100 off, basically discount code for an Alaska Lounge Plus membership. This obviously depends on whether you want to use Alaska lounges, whether you fly to airports where there are Alaska lounges, and I guess what your lounge access looks like for other airport lounges that you might have access to as well. So obviously, if you have access to Centurion lounges, Chase Sapphire lounges, Capital One lounges, all those other lounges as well, then this might be less valuable because you probably don't need it as much. But if you are someone who gets value out of it, then I can see why this can eat into your annual fee as well. But essentially, those are what the Alaska Airlines credit cards look like right now. And in conclusion, those are the only two offerings that are currently out on the market. So Alaska doesn't have any high tier credit cards that are currently available. But even though Alaska Airlines doesn't have a premium travel credit card that is currently out there on the market, that does not mean that there's no premium airline credit cards that are out there on the market right now, because there's multiple other credit cards that I think it'd be important for us to take a look at so we can kind of get a sense on what other premium airline credit cards look like that can help us make an assumption of what sort of benefits might exist on the Alaska card as well. So to start with, I wanted to go over Delta's credit card offerings because they do have multiple higher tier credit cards that I think would be important to take a look at. So what I have pulled up right here is actually the Delta Platinum card. Delta does have one higher fee card than even the Delta Platinum, which is the Delta Reserve. But based on the initial feedback that we've gotten and kind of things that we're seeing so far, it sounds like that Alaska Airlines premium travel credit card is probably going to have an annual fee of $395. So I just figured that the Reserve was a lot higher than that, and the Delta Platinum might be the better comparison. But if we take a look at the Delta Platinum and some of the benefits that are on this card, obviously there's some of these benefits. So getting 15% off when you book award travel on Delta flights, some of the boosts that you get for status, and then two major credits. So there's the Delta Stays credit and then the Delta Rideshare credit. I guess not Delta, but Rideshare credit as well. So if you use both of those credits, it can obviously eat into some of that annual fee. But the credits can sometimes be annoying. We don't want to see a lot of credits, obviously, being broken down into monthly increments because that makes them just harder to use. And it's kind of the calling card of American Express. But something that is going to be included on the Alaska credit card for sure, and something that's also included on the Delta credit card, which is why I think it's important to take a look at, is going to be the companion certificate. So if we look at the Delta Platinum and what is included on that, basically you get a companion certificate on main cabin, domestic, Caribbean, or Central American round trip flights each year after the renewal of your card. So what we've seen so far, and I'll get into specifically some of the initial benefits that we've already basically confirmed for what's going to be on that premium Alaska card. But based on what we're seeing, there will definitely be some sort of companion certificate on the Alaska premium card. And it's basically just going to be an upgraded version on what already exists. And so we can look at this Delta Platinum card and what the companion certificate looks like here to kind of make an assumption on what we think the Alaska credit card will contain as well. So for this, basically you're getting a main cabin, domestic, Caribbean, or Central American round trip flights. So it's expanded at least from just being domestic. So it's not just US flights, but hey, you could fly to the Caribbean if you want to. If you want to go on a beach vacation, you could fly to the Caribbean or Central America. Maybe you're learning Spanish like me. And so it's good to fly to those types of places. But the other thing that's important to note is that this is only on main cabin flights. So this doesn't include booking like Delta One suites or Delta first class, whatever. You can only do this for a main cabin seat. So it is a little bit restrictive in terms of the amount of potential value you could get from it, but it still does include some outside of just domestic flights. And it's a good indication of what could be included on the Alaska Companion Certificate as well. Okay, so now I wanted to shift our focus into that premium Alaska Airlines credit card and take a look at some of the benefits that have already been confirmed on what we can expect to see. But first, before I get into that, I wanted to ask the question, why now? What is the timing in terms of why, after all these years of Alaska just having those two mid-tier credit cards, why are they now deciding to announce this premium travel credit card? I think there's a couple of reasons for that in terms of some of the benefits and different changes that they've made to their program recently. So I wanted to get into those because it hopefully provides some context on the timing of launching that card. So to discuss some of the changes that Alaska Airlines has made recently, which is definitely prompting for this premium travel credit card now being launched, we're going to start with the acquisition of Hawaiian Airlines. You may have heard of this, but essentially what this has done is now us as points enthusiasts have the ability to transfer Amex points indirectly over to Alaska. And Alaska miles, I think, are really valuable and have a lot of sweet spot opportunities. So that's been great for us and all the people that, are into the credit card game and all those strategies and redemptions and stuff like that. But even more so, this also from a business perspective is now going to allow for more flights into Hawaii and into the US, I guess the mainland US. And then also new lounges are going to be created to make room for some of these new flight opportunities. And in general, Alaska and Hawaiian are obviously just going to be a lot more connected with new routes, new lounges, and new potential opportunities. So, to dive into this a little bit more specifically, as you can see here at the very start of this article, it says the Alaska Airlines is now expanding its premium offering with 3 new lounges over the next few years. Those new lounges are going to open at the San Diego International Airport and Honolulu's International Airport, and then followed by a new flagship international lounge in Seattle by 2027. I'm someone who lives in Seattle, so all of this is really positive considering that Alaska has always been the program that I've flown the most, especially for short haul flights. But now, essentially, with this Hawaiian Airlines merger as well, it's going to open the opportunity for now a lounge in Honolulu. And then some of those West Coast connected cities like San Diego is going to receive a benefit as well. Right here, you can see that Alaska is making some changes to their mileage plan in terms of earning elite status and some of their milestone perks that they've added as well. And again, all of this is with the context of why now? Why are they now launching this premium travel credit card? And I think all of this can help us to understand why the timing couldn't make more sense. But with all that being said, let's get into the part of this video that probably a lot of you are waiting for. Let's get into the actual details, at least what we know so far on what this Alaska premium travel credit card is going to look like. So, as you can see right here, some of the benefits are outlined. So, earning 3x back on foreign purchases and all eligible dining purchases. We have the Global Companion Award certificates, waived award ticket fees, Alaska lounge passes, Wi Fi vouchers, accelerated pass to elite status, same day confirmed fee waivers, and then an annual fee of $395. So, I want to break down a couple of these benefits, at least the ones that are probably the most important, probably the ones you're most curious about. So right now we have some initial information, but we don't know necessarily all of the details. And that's especially going to be true with this companion award certificate because it sounds like Alaska is expanding this to basically upgrade what it's going to look like and making it global. So essentially what that means is instead before you could just fly, maybe from Seattle over to New York City or Seattle to Hawaii and get value out of that companion certificate. One question that I have about this global companion award is that a lot of times, what you're going to get value from, at least when you're flying globally by using your Alaska miles, is booking on their partner airlines. So Alaska is a member of the One World Alliance, and basically you can book on Japan Airlines, you can book on Iberia, you can book on Aer Lingus, you can book on Cathay Pacific, all these international airlines that can get you value, but you can book those with your Alaska miles. So my question then becomes, with this companion award being global, I'm curious on whether you're going to be able to use that companion certificate with partner airlines as well. So could I theoretically book flights over to Tokyo and book that flight on Japan Airlines from Seattle to Tokyo, and then use my global companion certificate for my second person's flight over to Tokyo? That would be awesome. And that would probably by itself get you to that $395 annual fee. But I'm not sure, I guess, about the feasibility or logistics of that actually happening. And I wouldn't be surprised if this is just an Alaska specific companion certificate. But we don't know for sure yet. So we'll see as that's more details come out and as it gets closer to that launch. The other thing is going to be the waived award ticket fees, which again, the same question kind of exists. Is that a waived award tickets for partner airlines as well? Because obviously that would help a lot in terms of using your Alaska miles to book some of these flights. Sometimes there's going to be those taxes and fees that are added on to award flights. If this is for partner airlines as well, then it makes Alaska miles and redemption opportunities even more valuable. And then finally, I'm curious about these Alaska lounge passes. So it sounds like I believe it's like $60 per day for a one-time visit to an Alaska lounge. So, with that context in mind, how many of those are we going to get? Is it going to be four? Is it going to be two? Is it going to be one? I don't know. Obviously, we don't know the initial, these are just the initial details. We don't know everything yet. But with that said, I think how valuable this is going to be is obviously going to depend on how many you get, but also, I guess, what the rules are in terms of bringing in a companion with you. Maybe you get a discount with those passes. Maybe you can use those passes for yourself and for a companion. So maybe you just have one trip where you use all of them and bring in all of your guests with you. But I think that's going to be an important thing to know as we get into the release of this card. So, in terms of my initial honest thoughts on the release of this premium Alaska Airlines credit card, I really honestly think it all comes down to that companion certificate. I touched on a couple of my initial thoughts already, but I think it really depends on whether you can use partner airlines to actually be able to use that companion certificate. I think it depends on how expansive that companion certificate is and what the restrictions are. I personally probably won't hurry to get this credit card just because I'm already grandfathered into getting a companion certificate on my regular personal Alaska card already. So obviously that doesn't necessarily apply to being able to like go to Japan, but it's valuable for what it is right now. And obviously it depends too if we're even able to go to Japan, depending on if you can use that companion certificate with a partner airline. The lounge passes are great, especially if you typically use Alaska lounges. From my experience, those have typically been a lot less crowded than like Centurion lounges, for example. But again, I think it all comes down to that companion certificate. And so if you fly internationally pretty frequently and you use some of the Alaska partners, and let's say that you're able to use that certificate with Alaska partners, then I can see why this card could be really, really valuable. And even if you don't, I could still see, especially if you don't want to have the required spend with the regular credit card, why getting the companion certificate automatically every year could make that annual fee actually worth it. But with that said, I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Thanks so much for listening to the video and my honest thoughts on this credit card. My question for you is, what do you think about this credit card? Let me know down in the comments because I'd love to hear all of your thoughts. And I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Peace.